on my screen, is what do you wish people would do more of? What do you wish people would do more of? And our presenters will get a chance to tell us what they think. Folks are welcome to add it to the chat or just think about it a little bit. Hi, Earl. Good to see you. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Becky. Hi, Ria.
Well,
Ria is
Jennifer,
one.
go ahead.
Please.
Well, I was going to jump in and say, the thing that jumps out to me, what I wish
Mm.
people would do more of is step out of their shoes and take the perspective of other people.
I really like that. It's a good one. Mine is so, mine is not quite as big and in the sky. I was going to say, I wish people would pick up trash. Like if you see a piece of trash, just pick it up. Just make it look nice. But, it's one of my activities. I've told some of you before, I do picking up litter while jogging, also known as plogging, which of course came from a Nordic country, where all the big things seem to come lately. But I've been doing that on Wednesday mornings with one other neighbor. Listen to each other, notice the positive. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Well, so now everyone put such lovely things. And John, you started about. So I'm afraid to push enter. Mine was karaoke, which seems so inappropriate and insensitive. We've got lilacs, we've got civil discourse, and laughter. But I was thinking karaoke. I love to karaoke.
Yeah, laughter does come with karaoke. So what I think at the OSEP conference, for those people who attend, I think we might need to have to figure out a karaoke night. There's karaoke on my side of the river on DC. If folks are willing to come, there's one on the wharf. It's a Korean karaoke, which I don't know how that's different than a Japanese karaoke, but it exists. So, and Kaylee Bunch Woodson, we'll have to see if she's coming to the conference and can join us because she said that's her favorite thing.
So Jennifer, I will tell you that my sister and I kayaked in Marina del Rey and picked up, like, our whole kayak was full of trash.
Ooh,
it's very sad.
That is sad. I once got into a kayak and there was a mouse at the bottom of it. That was, or some like small creature. That was, I think I'd almost rather trash than that, but each his own. All right, so I'm going to get started just because we have two great presentations and they both deserve all the time we can give them. But thank you for thinking about this question. And
Jennifer,
and
can I make a plug real quick?
Sure.
Just to let everybody know that the SIG Network, you probably have seen the email. We've got a new website. We've had to shift to a new platform for technical reasons in the background. But if you haven't had a chance to yet, please take a minute to go to signetwork.org and register for the new website.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, and you'll put the link in just to get them directly there.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, like I said, I'm going to do this fast because I want to give everyone a good amount of time. In Illinois, one time got a little shafted on their time amount, and so we're trying not to do that to them again. But the research minute today is actually a chance to participate in some action research or participatory research, where many of the SPDIGs have some kind of observation tool or walkthrough tool that they use. And Kristen Brown in Colorado had a great idea. Wouldn't it be nice to see what's out there? What's shareable? What can we learn from? So luckily, this is not something I would likely have time to dedicate to, but there is a group of students at University of Denver who are in a program evaluation class, and they want to take this on as a project, which is lovely. So we do have this, a couple questions for you just to see, because we have so many of you on here and we don't have to send out a survey to you then after. If you want to take a minute and let us know, one, does your SPDIG use one or more observations or walkthrough tools? If yes, would you be willing to share your tool and accompanying directions with the team of doc students at University of Denver, their school psychology doc students? And your tool would be included in a matrix of tool and the elements of the tool. It's not evaluatory in terms of like, is this a good tool? Is this a bad tool? It's just, what is the tool doing? Who is it for? That kind of thing. It's real direct. If your answer is yes or not sure, please provide your name, state, and email address so that we can follow up with you. So while you are doing that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. First, I want to give you an example of a walkthrough tool that was shared by Rhode Island. This is just the top sheet of it, but they shared this during the Fidelity Friday, something that they created working with their district participants and with the union had a piece of things. There were lots of different partners, so lots of voice in it. They thought about student engagement as part of it. It took some time to develop. There's a recording of their presentation I recommend it, but this is an example of a tool that would be used for observation. And these are some of the things that University of Denver folks are going to be thinking about. Is it measuring adherence, engagement, quality of instruction? Is there a particular content area of focus? So is it about behavior, et is it school-wide data that you're using or more individual educator, etc. For study participants, you all, if you decide to be part of it, it would be giving them access to your tool, access to the training materials, documentation, manuals, etc., and then, of course, your contact information in case there were follow-up questions. Any questions about what would be necessary to participate, what they need from you? And then this is what they're hoping to put together is a matrix of observation tools that SIG Network, perhaps others even beyond our group, could use. If, say, they were a new SPDIG or they've realized that they need an observation or walkthrough tool and it already existed, then they wouldn't have to spend the time dedicated to creating a new tool. Any resources or learning opportunities people would like to share, please add to the chat. This is about a conference you just attended. Maybe there's a great presentation people might access. There's a good publication, something that you think others would benefit from. And then today's presenters. So I gave titles to both of their presentations. The first one I am calling Illinois SPDIG Circles Back. Some of you might remember that Illinois has done a great job starting with our program area meeting at the last OSEP conference last summer. They presented some of their challenges putting together a fidelity measure. And we're very open and honest. And then we had some good conversations about fidelity. And you got to vote on which pathway they should take for their fidelity project. They took all of your feedback and that helped them make some decisions on the fidelity. And then they've come back a couple times since then to talk not only about the tool itself, but how they're using it, what they're thinking about with coaching, what it means to analyze the data. So they're going to talk a little bit more about that fidelity journey today. Stacey Riccio from Arizona, she's the Director of Academic Achievement and Inclusive Practices. She's going to be talking about how their SPDIG project and the work since then has created coherence for participants, for the people who are working on the project. How do you bring clarity? And she's going to build off of Amanda March's presentation from last month, which was talking about building off your values and having a shared vision and mission, also known for Stacey as collective commitments. So understanding who we are as a team and individuals in the work, she thinks that that can impact student success, and she's going to demonstrate how. So that was my quick and hopefully not too dirty way of getting things going today. And I'm going to hand it over to the Illinois team.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. I am Sherry Bohenick. I am the project director for the Illinois SPDIG, and I will let my the rest of my team introduce themselves.
I am Stephanie Woodley. I am the program director or the grant coordinator, not the project director. That's Sherry. And it's been a long week already. And I will say, I didn't put it in the chat, but my big thing is I'm a please, thank you, you're welcome person. And that drives me crazy when people don't say please, thank you, and you're welcome. And I wish more people would do that.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, for sharing. I'm Laura Barwigan, and I'm the evaluator for the Illinois project. And thanks for having us back again. I think Stephanie or Sherry is going to start us off here.
I'll take it back, Laura. And excuse me, I actually forgot about the the prompt at the beginning. So I will circle back to that, as Illinois does circle back. One of the things I wish people did more of is actually just talk to each other over the fence as neighbors. Nobody in my neighborhood does that. I rarely even see any of my neighbors. So there's people in my neighborhood I don't even know. So I wish people did more of that. So we are going to talk about our project and kind of where we are, but just to refresh you as far as what our objectives are for our grant. And the activities that we focus on are to recruit and retain high quality special education teachers, and to build sustainable professional learning opportunities for those educators, ultimately to improve the outcomes for the students with disabilities in the districts and schools that we support. And also we partner with different groups and organizations to connect families and educators to really build those powerful relationships, which are so necessary, especially with helping to improve those outcomes for students. So I will pass it over to Stephanie.
And Jennifer kind of gave a great reminder as to where the state of Illinois has been. So we'll just quickly rush through this and kind of get to our actual instrument and how we're using that to inform our coaching as we move forward. But our biggest issues were just the breadth of our IESE network across the state, and not a single or even just a couple of EVPs that we are using. So it's very dependent on the coaching that we're doing as well as the trainings that we're providing. So just a super quick glance at the assessments that we were using prior to our coaching fidelity instrument. Laura does a great job leading our team through the state capacity assessments and regional capacity assessments. Our state is broken up for us, our grant, into 5 different regions. And so our regions do that RCA with their specific stakeholders as well. We use the HQPD checklist after every single one of our trainings, and our staff loves them, but they understand the value of them. We have many different surveys that Laura has created, everywhere from our educators to fill out as a post-PD, to our paraprofessionals, to administrators, to parents even, and then also for those that we are coaching or even individually or in small groups. And we also have the Illinois Instrument for Implementation Fidelity, or we call it the Illinois IFI, and that is our fidelity instrument that we were using prior to our coaching fidelity instrument for everything. We're still using this after all of our trainings. So our staff send an email, a follow-up email after a training, asking how they are actually implementing the strategies that we talked about in those trainings. And that's really helping to inform us as we move forward as well. They answer qualitatively, but also quantitatively on those, and then also asking about the number of students it has reached from their perspective in there. And then we also do get data from the state of Illinois that help to inform our information, our measures on our student outcome. And then we're going to talk more about our fidelity instrument for coaching today. Jennifer already mentioned this, kind of where we were last summer and the results that came from asking what should we do next and our next steps, whether it be to develop one broad instrument, for several instruments, or do we do one that's combined, of which we chose to do a combined one for the ease. Several instruments would have overwhelmed our team immensely. But it also really made sense because our focus really is on high leverage practices. Everything that we do, even though we provide many different trainings on many different topics, it all leads back into high leverage practices. Thus, our coaching really leads back into high leverage practices. And we've almost used the high leverage practices as standards on our trainings too, and really leading all of our participants into that realm and the better understanding of those high leverage practices. So we kind of went through and looked at what skills can we actually observe and measure underneath some of the high leverage practices that we chose. And you'll see that when Laura goes through the COI. So here's just kind of our process and where we are right now. We identified the problem. You were fantastic of helping us with feedback as we shared what that problem was and our honesty, and you were very honest with us. We drafted the instrument. We had some of our staff who were already coaching, so we brought them in because the instrument that Laura and I had created was not going to work with the coaching that we were doing, and we really wanted it to make sense to them. So we really had them help us in the creation of this as well. Then we used the pilot instrument. We're going to talk about some of the revising that has been done and the implementation pieces. I'll let Laura talk about the instrument.
Great. So I'm going to switch screens. So I want to be able to share with you the instrument that we created that Stephanie was talking about. And we had piloted it last November. I can't talk and find my shared screen at the same time. But we piloted it last November through February, and then we collected the data and were able to report it out to our team at the end of February. But this is what I used Qualtrics in order to create it. And I wanted just to show it to you because we have always gotten such great feedback from this group. And so we are always open to people pointing out, oh my goodness, you did this, why don't you do this? And we're like, oh, that's a really good idea. So you've been really helpful. So this is our instrument, and here's just information. It's completed by the coach, usually immediately following an observation. So we don't recommend that they bring their computer in during the observation and complete this. They first include an email address. That's their first task. And this was one of the improvements that we made based upon feedback after the pilot, is they can put their email address in there, and then as soon as they can complete the COI, then a quick report is sent to their email. So they get an immediate feedback report on everything that they've written down, which gives them something that they can save so that the next time they go in to observe, they can pull out then what was done last time and what they said needed improvement and things like that. Then the name and I think it might ask me, I have to do something. Then the name of this is our coaching team. In addition to those at districts that we partner with and support their coaches. Blah, blah, blah. Then we have them do an identifying code for the person that they're coaching. As an evaluator, I don't like to have any personal information. I don't want to have anything like that on my on my desk. So they do a number. So we recommend that they do, like for me, Laura Barwigan, it would be LB1. This is my first person I'm coaching, then maybe LB2. And then they have a log that they keep where they know who that is. We also ask them to indicate, is this at the beginning of the coaching cycle, middle, or end? So we do want them to be able to complete this 3 times during the entire coaching cycle. It is done, by the way, for every person that they're coaching, so that this is not just a certain percentage of them, but that we just wanted to institute it in terms of this is part of our coaching model. The date the observation took place and where it was. Oh, I know. I knew there was something that I had to put in. That was a forced choice. That was it. So just so that they didn't forget. And then this is how we've identified exactly what we're coaching on. These are the things that we normally provide professional development for or coaching. And so either socio-emotional behavioral learning, co-teaching strategies. And what Stephanie has done a fine job of is aligning, if these are the things that we are coaching upon, where's the alignment with the HLPs? So what HLPs would we expect to see exhibited during this type of focused coaching? And so then what a person would do is just maybe choose socio-emotional behavioral learning, HLPs 4, 7, and 8. And then maybe we're asking them, is there anything else that you're specifically focused upon that's besides those? Well, maybe identify and prioritize long and short-term goals. This is another HLP. So they can choose as many as they're focused upon. And then it goes right to those HLPs that are associated with the coaching focus that they're doing. We're asking them, we identified here the elements of the HLP. You either did not observe it, minimally observed it, observed, or observed as a strength. And then what did you observe that contributed to your decision that it's observed as or observed as a strength? And then what did you notice that wasn't there? So we have the qualitative component so that they can remember this for the next time they go and coach, and also maybe find things to talk with the teacher about. And so this just goes through each one of the HLPs. Trying to think, and then any further comments that they want to write down about that, and then it's completed. So that's our full instrument that we had created, and that's what that looks like. So now going back to this, what we did when we implemented it and through our pilot, we had 39 total coaching observations completed from November 23 through February 24. Of those 39, 26 were beginning of the cycle observations, and 13 were either mid or final observations. And of those 13, though, only 9 had somebody who was at the beginning and repeated, either a mid or end. So we really only had 9 pairs, which for those of us who are evaluators, that's not great kind of partnering there, but at least it gave us some data to look at and to get feedback from those who were doing the coaching on what their experience was with it. So then what I did for February is just created some tables for people to take a look at what do our data look like. And so because of the low numbers, what I did is I just put a beginning of the cycle mean, and then I combined the middle and end of the cycle because that was just the second observation. And I just found a mean value. So I wasn't doing any kind of, hopefully I'd love to do a paired samples t-test, at some point to determine the significance of this. But for now, that's just not going to be the case. And then what I did is had a column for, is there any change? Well, since HLP number 1, there were 7 beginning of the cycle observations for this, but there was no follow-up, so there's no change. But here we have HLP 4, which did have that. And what I did is that I used 2.5 as a demarcation because on my calculations, a 1 is not observed, a 2 is observed minimally, a 3 is observed, and a 4 is observed as a strength. So 2.5 is that midpoint. So I would highlight in green everything that moved from under a 2.5 to over a 2.5. And that meant that we moved from this wasn't occurring to this was occurring. So that was the way that I did that, and then also indicated on the right-hand side what change occurred from one observation to another. And I won't go through every one of them, but this is just what the data look like for all of these HLPs that we have as part of our observations. So we were able to look at the data and to figure out what was the effect upon coaching that we saw in the observation of these elements of the HLPs. And then we had a discussion on February 29th at our in-person meeting. We have 4 in-person meetings throughout the year of our team, and looking at what did these data communicate to you about the effectiveness of coaching. And the results that the team came up with is in looking at the data is coaching is effective when we are focused upon specific measures and specific practices. So the ability to use the HLPs and to observe certain behaviors or practices that are very focused, and then consulting with the person being coached on how did I see this, how didn't I see this, how can we move in a positive direction with that. The other thing that we noticed is that in the pilot, coaches, were using too many of the HLPs, and they realized, oh my goodness, we can't over kind of focus on too many. So that was a lesson learned there. And we also had some next steps to improve the Illinois coaching process. First of all, I just showed you how we did that, a creation of an immediate feedback report to the coach to be reviewed by them, and then also as a reminder for the next observation. Also coming up at our next in-person meeting in May, we're going to be doing a review of the qualitative responses to increase the validity and reliability of the observations aligned with the HLPs. Are our coaches writing down practices that indicate strengths or indicate that it wasn't there, so that they're valid and reliable? Stephanie, do you want to do the last three?
Mm-hmm. And Jennifer, you were talking at the beginning about an observation tool. So we do have an observation tool that aligns with this, that they actually use like while they're observing. So it's not that they're filling this out at the same time. They have an observation tool that has the different skills they're looking for, and to give them room to write down exactly kind of what they're seeing. And as a team, we went through all of those and provided examples. What would you expect to see if this was happening, or what are some of the behaviors you would observe? And we are going to use that again, and especially the qualitative responses, to keep going and to keep training, because when Laura was just talking about the number of HLPs, even if they're, because we purposefully did the forced choice to try to, we know that there are more HLPs that would be focused on with co-teaching, for example. We were just trying to narrow it in a little bit and to have some continuity, to be able to do some comparisons in the data as well. But they also realized even if they're forced into the 3, they don't have to practice 3 every single time or model 3 every single time. So we really talked about that in February as well, that that's not something that's expected, or some teachers that they can't do that. Just like if we're working on student behaviors or even IEP goals, you have to prioritize in those ways at some point. So we talked with that with our coaches. At our October SPDIG meeting, we talked a lot about formalized coaching logs. So that is something that we have implemented with our coaches. It goes back to what Laura was saying, to kind of tag. We use that. I review them with them, but we also really wanted to look at time spent. So part of the conversation that came from, well, how did we have so many, but then we only had 9 that had both? We had a lot of educators that just kind of fell off the face of the earth, never contacted back, or kept rescheduling or canceling. I had a big conversation with one of our coaches. She goes, I walked into this classroom and I don't think you want me to put in there what I saw. And we had conversations about, is this what you would expect to see on a regular day? Was this, you know, just a very different day? But being able to have those types of conversations in there as well. And so within those coaching logs, helping myself and helping the coaches and having those conversations, but then also what types of resources, what types of things are they pulling for coaching? So how are they using their data that they're reporting on their observations to inform their coaching process within there? So I'm very interested to see the coaching logs, and our team truly does appreciate data, and I kind of shook my head with HQPDs, but they love seeing it because it shows the great things that they're doing. And I think it really shows it within the coaching pieces as well. But just, you know, we don't have as our process, it's only 1 time a month or things such as that. So we want to hope to use that to maybe get it a little bit more formalized with time spent with those educators that we're coaching. Continuing to train our coaches is a big part, not just our IESE team, but also the staff members, the instructional leaders, the coaches that we're working with in the schools. That's a big part of it for next year, especially, again, thinking sustainability and working and how they can support the special educators that we are working with. So a big part, Laura said we meet 4 times in person. We meet a whole lot more throughout the year, but we have 4 in full days. In May, we have always had 2 days, and our team in February, and I was going to bring this up to them. I was a little concerned about it because, you know, asking them to come to a place more often, but they're like, can we just meet for 2 days every single time? And it was, yes, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. So We're going to move all of our in-person meetings to 2 days, and a portion of one of those days will be about coaching, being able to troubleshoot, to network, to just have more data conversations, more coaching conversations. And then we are also getting an LMS, and we're going to make one of our strands specific to coaching, where we can compile coaching resources that our coaches can use, that we know are vetted. Resources, but also they can send those educators that they are coaching to this LMS and say, we want you to do this prior to the next time that we meet. So we're hoping that that kind of brings everything in a little bit more for our coaches and the educators that they're supporting. So that's kind of our next steps there.
That's where we are right now. And I think that just we appreciate the help of everybody who is, on this call and beyond, who, I know I've reached out to some of you personally and said, okay, this is what we're thinking. And what do you think? And so it's just been a team effort. So we really appreciate that.
And any questions from folks as we consider what the coaching observation looks like, where they've come from? I have one question as people are thinking about it. So now that there's the high leverage practices 2.0, is that going to change much about your training? Or I haven't looked at it in depth to know what kinds of differences there are.
Yeah, our team already has the books. We did that as soon as they came out. That will be part of our May 2-day retreat, is to really think about how this, if anything, it's going to help us as coaches kind of relay it back into all of how everything is embedded, and we don't use one in isolation and all of those things, because there are many more kind of practical strategies within there. So we want to make sure that we are mirroring those pieces, but I don't think that it will change the COI at this point.
Yep. Got it.
But no, that's a great question.
Yeah, there's lots of great jobs going on, but also there was a question from Ashley in Alabama. What is the role of the grant coordinator versus the director? And I did want to make one point about that. In Illinois, they have regional offices of education, which almost every state, if they have them, call them different things, right? But they're the regional education service agencies. And so Stephanie sits at a regional office of education and is helping to lead the professional development work via that, which I think has been fantastic. It's really been a nice collaboration in Illinois. I recommend it if anyone could do anything like that. And then, of course, Sherry is in Illinois. The State Department of Education is called the Illinois State Board of Education, which is confusing for most of us, just so you all Illinois folks know. But Sherry and Stephanie, anything else you wanted to add about the project director and the coordinator positions in Illinois?
Actually, you know what, Jennifer? Stephanie used to work at a regional office of education, and then we had our overall state grant coordinator leave. And so Stephanie was hired. She actually oversees the entire state now. She does all of the coordination work. Sherry does a lot of work with helping us interface with what's going on with the State Board of Education. And this is information for another day, but you know, she's coordinated with us with needs improvement districts. And so now we've been kind of inserted into the state's plan for assisting districts that need improvement. So Sherry helps us with that. So the program coordinators are the ones that oversee each of the 5 regions.
Thank you, that's helpful.
And I still do work underneath a regional office of education. That is relation. So
yeah, and they also there was a nice comment from Amy Gummer Erickson. You've done a great job of having customization, personalization while maintaining a consistent process.
Thank you very much. It was really important to involve our team in building the system. So we would have had a whole lot of pushback had we just said this is how it's going to be.
I was just going to say that helped tremendously with buy-in.
Great. And that is a great lead in, Stacy, wouldn't you say, to Stacy's presentation. But thank you so much, Sherry, Stephanie, Laura. Thank you for always being willing to come back and talk to us. It is so meaningful to follow a project along on a the processes and the journey and get more and more understanding of it. Really, it's what a lot of people had asked for over time, and we're doing it. So thank you for being willing to share. It's great to see your progress.
Thank you.
And Stacy, Stacy, who in my mind I always call you Riccio from my learning of Italian, it's Riccio, right?
But in Italy, it is Riccio.
Yeah.
You got it.
So Stacy Riccio from Arizona has kindly agreed to share how they're creating coherence in Arizona. And it's a really nice follow on to Amanda March's presentation in April, which was all about, how do you tap into values for the people who work with you and the people who you are serving, or who are participants in the professional learning. How do you tap into values? And then, but she's going to go a little bit bigger into that, into creating some understanding of the rationale, some coherence of the path that folks are going to take in their professional learning work with you. So I'm not even doing it justice, but Stacey, I'll turn over to you so you can do it justice.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for having me. Let me see if I can share my screen here.
And don't forget to tell us about what you wish people would do more of.
Oh, yes. Let me do presenter.
Stacy, while you're working on finding your screen, I just want to point out the chat to people that maybe haven't seen it, but there's a little more about your program, the AZPLS, there, and a video links in the chat that people can click on.
Thank you, John. And then, can you guys see my screen? Is it sharing?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, looks
perfect. All right, let me. Okay. So my name's Stacy Riccio. I am the director of a new director. I'm new in my role. Since we've done I started SPDIG work in 2016, and our SPDIG actually started in 2015. I've had 3 jobs at the state agency since then, but have always held on to this work. So I'm a director of academic achievement and inclusive practices. And I think I held on to Amanda's message so much because of what I'm going through being a new director and building out a new team and building that coherence with a clear vision with your mission and collective commitments. And we do the same thing in our work with our SPDIG. So although our project ended in 2022 because we had 2 no-cost extension years, I hold on to all the learning that the SIG network offers. And I believe that connecting and learning from each other and across states around this work it's just something I truly value. And I'm thankful for this project because it changed everything for me as a leader in professional learning and supporting other people grow as professional learning facilitators. Over the years, I've just become so fascinated with implementation science, and I love to work on teaching and learning outcomes for students with disabilities. It's been a passion of mine since I started my career as a resource teacher so many years ago. And it's just a dream that I get to continue this work and support leaders, educators, students, and families. What do I wish people would do more of? I wish they would be more reflective in their practices and in their work. Like, I think reflection is a game changer, not only professionally, but personally too. All right, so just a little bit more about me and just my connections with all of this work. How many of you did see Amanda's message in our last meeting? Raise hands, shout outs. I've been thinking about that message ever since we saw it. And really the last couple SIG network director meetings have been so impactful for me. So if I can't catch them live, I catch them on the recording for sure. And Amanda's message on vibes and values, just those words, vibes and values. Like, I want to make a t-shirt about it. She mentioned her vibes and values being strategic planning and problem solving. She talked about high quality PD and targeted TA and program evaluation for continuous improvement. And I was like, yes to all of those things. So I hold Amanda's message close to my heart. I think I watched her recording like 2 or 3 times. just personally as I'm building out a new team in my current role, and then how I continue to build out work with our SPDIG. And also I want to connect back to a few months ago when Jocelyn Washburn from KU presented on the SIMS project. It was ironic that my team that I was coming into gave me her contact information because they saw her at NASD present on inclusionary practices. And then that month, she presented here at SIG Network. And I reached out to her. She was in Arizona for spring break. We had coffee. We talked about scaling up and inclusionary practices. And I really look forward to connecting and learning with her further around that work. So I guess what I'm saying is these meetings, they just give us opportunity to connect beyond the meeting time, beyond our project time. Like I'm like a veteran now. And continue to learn and grow as educators. So thank you, John and Jennifer, for all of the opportunities that you give us with SIG Network.
And Stacy, I did have one thought about, it's funny that you say veteran, because as I was looking through your slides and your plan for today, I thought there's so many things from conferences, you know, the national meeting, from directors' webinars, from communities of practice, that I see the concept sprinkled throughout your presentation. So if folks want to be on the lookout for it, like the Simon Sinek why is in there, the you know, all these things we've talked about. So it was fun.
I do. I'm a planner, and I take everything that I learn and I try to fit it into the pieces to bring it forward more and deeper and clarify things. So coherence, it's my jam right now. So before we get into our learning, I'm going to start off with a quote that I use with our leadership training. Change really isn't as hard as we thought if we capture people's interests and give them enjoyable, worthwhile experiences. I just want to take a moment for people to think about that quote and what does it mean for you? You can come off mute. You can share in the chat. Anybody want to share?
Stacy, while people are thinking about that, because I think there's a deep responses, I'll go ahead and fill the airwaves for you here and say,
John.
you know, I think about buy-in.
Yeah.
Right. That if you get people to buy in, you know, through their interest and making it worthwhile and enjoyable, then they become agents of change. And, you know, many hands make light work, maybe is what I'm trying to say through buy-in.
I love that. I love that.
Like how when it says we captures people's interests, and I think it's even more than that. It's a sense of, do people feel like they belong in the conversation, that their perspectives matter, that what they might influence has meaning, and I think that if you feel like you belong, that you're really wanted in that change process, and that your voice will be heard, I think that matters too.
I agree. Oh, the chat is filling up. Everyone's part of the work, and we should be part of the change at all levels. Yes. Change can't just be more of the same with different names. Yes. Thank you for sharing, guys. It's easier to accept when it's something we're all vested in. Agreed. Making connections makes buy-in more prevalent. Yes. Amanda shared, our values reflect what matter most. Our power comes from rising daily and aligning our actions with our core values. Our result is purposeful and meaningful impact. And I feel that with my current role being a new director and with our SPDIG work, bringing clarity to our work's mission, vision, values, working on collective commitments together, that's what it's all about. We need to understand who we are as teams working together and who we are as individuals in the work that we do to really impact student success. And then we realize that we can do hard things. We're guided by our personal and collective values because hard things are hard to do, and it seems easier to do when they're aligned with your values and the mission of the work. Amanda also stated that when we elevate values, we make better and more thoughtful decisions about what matters most. And then we're able to develop collectively meaningful, purposeful goals. So for today's learning, I'm going to share with you some examples of our work and our journey. And please feel free to unmute yourself and share further examples that you may have with the work that you've done in your projects, and we can all continue to learn and grow from each other. I'm going to ask that you take out a scratch piece of paper, a Post-it note, anything around you, and kind of number it 1 through 8. I'm going to take some time to give you an overview of our whole project, but through clarity and focus for how leadership leads the project. And then we'll talk about impact and the coach's role in the work. All right, just got your papers ready. This is our mission and vision for our project. The number one thing that you can write down on your scratch piece of paper is alignment, just like Amanda was talking about. Alignment to mission, visions, and values of the school really help people make those connections. I added values to our mission and vision after hearing Amanda's message, and I highlighted coherence. It being defined as systematic or logical connections or consistency. And if you haven't read Michael Fullen's book on coherence, I love this book. And he's got this really great workbook. Mine's not used at all. I mean, he says complex times call for clear solutions. If initiative overload and fragmentation are keeping your best plans from becoming a reality, it's time to start leading differently. The key to bringing about this kind of successful and sustainable change you need is coherence framework, a dynamic, customizable roadmap made up of 4 essential components. So he talks about being focused with direction to build collective purpose, which is really your mission and vision, right? Cultivating collaborative cultures while clarifying individual and team roles, like understanding who we are in our work and how we work together as teams. Deepening learning to accelerate improvement. How are we really working on those skills and practices that people need? And then securing accountability from the inside out. And to me, that's really being data driven. This book came out in 2016. I didn't purchase it until 2020, and I purchased the workbook in 2022. And it's like an affirmation to everything that we should be doing in this work, but also it helps you go deeper in bringing that clarity and focus that's needed to help people really live in the work and make change. So number 2, John shared in the chat a link to our website. On our website, there's a tab called Getting Started, and you can see the guides that we built out for each of these systems. So number 2 is connect the people to the roles and be direct and explicit with how you define things. And Illinois, you guys were talking about that with your walkthrough tool. I mean, as you guys were speaking, I was like, yes, the more defined and explicit we can be, the more supportive we are in helping people grow. And clearly what I've learned in this work, when I started on the project in 2016, I was so focused on coaching that I really missed the opportunity to support leadership. And really, leadership and coaches are the linchpin. They're the person or thing that is vital to the whole system and organization. The leadership creates clarity and focus and builds collective will for the work, and coaches support building collective capacity for high levels of implementation and sustainability. So together, this dynamic duo, they continuously reflect, support, empathize, influence, and inspire teachers, students, and families. And so we don't teach these systems directly, but we coach and provide technical assistance to leadership and coaches as they're implementing our modules. This is how they sustain their work through these systems. We bring coherence to leadership as they lead this work for teachers on how coaches support the implementation towards fidelity and sustainability. So these are our 6 modules. And bringing coherence to leadership and coaches, they're modeling for teachers. They're walking through classrooms. They're providing productive feedback, supporting collaborative team development and ongoing targeted professional learning to build capacity of high leverage instructional practices. Our module 1 is all about mission and vision. It's a shortened module where leadership is talking about how they're going to lead this work, how it aligns to current initiatives at their school site, and gets the teachers energized and engaged in this learning, where they feel like this is not going to be one more initiative on my shoulders. This is truly going to be something that helps us enhance our work. How it enhances us collaboratively plan teaching and learning through the dimensions of formative assessment, using high leverage practices and literacy, and the lens of differentiation in UDL to really impact the teaching and learning of all students. So the modules build upon each other. You're continuously building on your collaborative skills. You're deepening your understanding of those formative assessment practices, how to bring the anchor standards to life through evidence-based literacy strategies, and then how you're meeting the needs of all students through universal design for learning and differentiation. Sorry, my slides are going crazy. Number 3 is show them. Show them. Oop, it's gonna go. I don't want it to go yet. Okay. Show them how to make an impact and how others made an impact. So how does it align with your mission, vision, and values you hold to support students with disabilities? We worked with the schools that implemented our learning series and developed 13 videos, 2 to 3 videos for each of the modules on what it looks like, what the impact is of doing this work.
What is the impact for schools participating in the Arizona Professional Learning Series?
I believe the biggest shift our school site has had from using the practices and the systems of AZ Professional Learning Series has been we've recognized we do good things. We have a lot in place, and our teachers feel more support now than they ever have before through the coaching aspect. They get that affirmation that we are doing well. Maybe our student scores at this point aren't reflecting huge amounts of growth, but we are all headed in the same direction. The shared strategies can now be seen in action across classrooms, across grade levels. We have vertical discussion and collaboration time, as opposed to prior, we would just be isolated to each grade level, and whole school discussion was difficult at times and felt like everybody was headed in a different direction or felt like something else was more important. So focusing on the data that we receive through the learning series is really driven the direction of where we want to head and how we're going to get there. And it's kept us focused, but yet at the same time, it's not a new thing and teachers don't feel overwhelmed. They feel like they're supported in what they are doing on a daily basis.
All right, number 4, we spend a lot of time focused on the leadership role, defining and providing space for leaders to reflect and plan how they're going to lead this work. So we ask questions like, what do you believe are the adult actions that impact student outcomes? How do you as a leader support the adult actions so students achieve? And how do you as a leader build teacher efficacy? In the chat, John added a link to an article from ACSA on teacher efficacy. There it is again. Thank you, John. It comes from Educational Leadership. And I'm going to have you guys scroll down until you see the title, 4 Sources of Collective Teacher Efficacy. I'm going to give you 6 minutes to read this section of this article and just jot down some words or phrases that really stood out to you. I'm going to turn my camera off. Feel free to turn your camera off while you're reading. When I turn my camera back on, John will throw us into breakout rooms and we'll have some time to share what we wrote down for our phrases and words. All right. 6 minutes starts now. We have about a minute left. Make sure you have some words or phrases jotted down. All right, as we start to come back, John is going to hook us up in some breakout rooms. There's going to be 5 team members in each room, so that gives everybody 1 minute to share their word or phrase that they connected with during the reading. Make sure you pick a spokesperson to share when we come back.
All right, Stacy and everyone, I'm going to open the rooms now.
Thank you. All right. We have everyone back? Yeah.
I believe so.
All right. Well, I hope you had great conversations, and I'm eager to hear what really stood out for you. What were some words and phrases you guys discussed from the reading? Come off mute, share in the chat.
Can I put Sherry on? Sherry was sharing when we were automatically like pulled out of our groups, and she was sharing about taking risk, and I was busy taking notes, like groups taking risks together. And so Sherry, I actually want you to finish your thought if you're okay with that.
Sure, I was just saying, talking in relation to collective teacher efficacy and the 3 things that were mentioned about persists in goals and then taking risks together, and then a willingness to stay together. I think taking risks kind of stuck with me. I think that's difficult for people. And when you can take risks together and feel vulnerable together, I think that's when the work becomes a little easier, because you know you're all kind of all in the same place of that vulnerability. So that's one thing that kind of stuck with me, was take risks.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for calling her out, Stacy.
Oh no, and I really like that piece, because I think in order for the group to take risk, they need to have a leader who is empathetic, a leader who is understanding, and a leader who's really great at also providing a safety net. And I think, you know, the group is likely not to go out on a limb if they don't necessarily have that. So for me, that resonated with me when you shared that, Sherry.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom, I see your hand up.
Yep, hi there. I was in a group with Jenny Jarvis from Montana and Shelly Nelson from Missouri, who unfortunately didn't get a chance to speak to, but Shelly was nodding and smiling, so I think we got some main points here. In our group, we talked about the challenges of turnover sometimes every year in a school building or a school system where you're trying to get something off the ground and past the exploration phase of implementation or initial installation, and how that highlights the importance of documenting the work in a systematic and transmissible way. In Minnesota, too, at least, we have tremendous workforce shortage problems in special education. So at least in our case, collective efficacy is like a limited resource as school systems struggle to get a sufficient workforce through the door. And I just would comment one more thing, too, that a lot of the reading also seemed to suggest the importance of developing a culture within the school building with the principal as the head and the teachers. But also it's so important for that culture to be able to interface in creative and constructive ways with the culture that students bring through the door every day too, or you're going to end up with a culture war of sorts. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Shared leadership. Everybody should be a leader in the work. I love that. Becky.
Yes, in our group, we highlighted mastery experiences.
Love that one.
Providing those opportunities, like for mastery experiences, we're talking about learning success through effort. So seeing it modeled, practice it, having feedback, having support, getting acknowledgement, you know, like you got this, you can do this, but actually practicing it, seeing it in action, has the greatest impact. And we talked about that applying at that organizational level. And we too, just like Tom had mentioned about the leaders and how they are highly influential in creating a trusting community with strong collective efficacy. And so
Mhm.
it's the leaders creating those opportunities for people to get into each other's classrooms,
Yep.
to create that trusting space.
Yep. Thank you, Becky. Annette.
I was in a group with Natalie and Gwen, and just a little trivia, we're all named after something famous. Two of us, two famous actresses,
Ooh,
Natalie
what's
Woods and Annette Funicello, and Miss Gwen is named after a very famous song written in 1972, and I forget the artist. Tom may
Nice.
recall. So Miss Natalie was what resonated with her was safety and trust. And she related that to the need for alliance building skills, particularly in the coaches that we're sending out and et cetera. That without those skills, whether in leadership or coaches, et cetera, safety and trust doesn't come naturally. Miss Gwen talked about interpersonal skills of school leaders are needed to effectively communicate with all staff and build trust. And again, it goes back to what resonated with Natalie, and I summarized it all up, that the whole piece really talked about relationality. And
Yeah.
without relationality, we don't build safetyness, we don't have safety, and we don't have trust, and teacher efficacy suffers.
Right. I connected this, so often, like as leaders, we go through creating missions, visions, values as like a checklist. Yes, we've done these things, but how do you really make it come to life? Especially spending time on your collective commitments, those values, that is what collectively we're saying we are going to commit to in order to make our mission and vision happen. Like, how, as a leader, do you lead that way so people are empowered and really lifted up in the work that they're doing? I love this article, and when I was listening to Amanda's webinar, I was thinking of this article. Like, that's what you're doing, providing mastery experiences, vicarious experiences. I love the words that they use in this article. Emotional state of the organization and verbal persuasion to support the implementation of the work. Thank you all for sharing and engaging. All right. Number 5, we use a cycle of inquiry to frame our thinking, and it really helps us map out our work as we move forward. These guiding questions help us design everything that we do. So where are we headed? Where are we now? How will we close the gap? We use them as our reflective questions with coaching, how coaches work with teachers, how students reflect on their own learning, how teachers are collaboratively planning, how collaborative teams are growing together, the action planning process. Like, this common language and this frame is what helps people be reflective, and really supporting leadership, understanding, learning to lead with students' needs as a focus. Number 6, leadership needs support too. So what does this look like for leadership? We anchor them in key words and phrases to help them internalize their role. How does a leader do this? With the support and voice of everybody in their learning community. They bring clarity to their collaborative team structure and reflecting on the evidence of impact. So if at the district level, you are building district-wide focus and collective will, you're supporting your school leadership in building school-wide focus and collective will. And then teachers, you're able to build that collective capacity for teachers to then impact student outcomes. Number 7, outline communication protocols so that policy is informed by practice and practice is informed by policy. This framework is straight from NERN. We took it and internalized it and defined it with our learning series and talked about what are the roles and responsibilities of these teams and the members of these teams. How does this team system, how is it reinforced through your school's mission, vision, and values towards impact for students and their success? Like, these are the adult actions that impact student outcomes. Number 8, evidence of adult actions to impact student outcomes. I was so jazzed when we added this to our SPDIG work. We worked with our external evaluator to create a data portal that housed all of the evaluation tools through SurveyMonkey so that our school sites could look at trend data over 3 years of the adult actions that impact student outcomes. So on this portal, we have the 3 guides that really support them with analysis and how to work with data. Our action plan templates for each of the modules that outline their focus areas, followed by the coach service delivery plan, because that coach service delivery plan is focused on what you said you were going to do in the action plan. The data entry reporting, those are all the adult actions, our classroom walkthrough, our coaching log, our fidelity of implementation, our perceptions of inclusive practices for parents, teachers, and students, our quarterly report forms, our parent perception surveys. So all of the adult actions that then impact student outcomes. And we put in tools for them to collect their students' outcome data so that they can compare, is what we're doing as the adults really impacting the outcomes for students, and then provided them with alignment tools to look how they're going to look at the data. So these are the adult actions that impact student outcomes. Another quote, John Hattie, it's how teachers think that makes the biggest difference. If they think that evaluating their impact is at the heart of their job, all good things follow. I like to pull out evaluating and add in that word reflection, just from our STEM too, that Jennifer gave us at the beginning. If more people reflected in their work, really good things could follow. And it's not just teachers, it's district and site leadership as well. So when you think about high performing collaborative teams, they reflect on evidence of learning and their impact on meeting the needs of each and every student. And having district leadership and school site leadership and teachers think about inclusive practices and how they're currently collaborating. Our learning series has the entire learning community collectively thinking about evidence of student learning and how to collaboratively plan teaching and learning for the success of all students. So we're going to take a moment. I had you write down 8 things on a scratch piece of paper, and I'm going to go through them really quick, and then I'm going to have John put up a poll. So the 8 things. Number 1, align your mission, vision, and values. Really spend time and make it come to life. Number 2, connect people to the roles in your system. Be direct, be explicit, just like Illinois was with their walkthrough tool. I showed examples with our system and our modules. Number 3, show leaders and coaches how it's going to make an impact. So I gave the example with our video. Number 4, build teacher collective efficacy with those tips from the article. Number 5, be reflective towards practice that supports students' growth. So that's the example of our inquiry cycle with those 3 questions. Where are we headed? Where are we now? How will we close the gap? Number 6, leaders need support to anchor them in keywords and phrases. Number 7, how we communicate and collaborate, develop a very strong team structure. Number 8, evidence of adult actions that impact student outcomes. Define your data and how you use it to drive change. So John's going to throw up a poll. It's going to ask a question. What's one area you would like to focus on more to support leadership that leads towards impact? Is it building school-wide focus? You can choose more than one too. Teacher collective efficacy, team structure, data system, or coaching system.
All right, Stacy, it looks like everybody's had a chance to respond. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
Fabulous. Look at that. Teacher collective efficacy. I like it. interesting that all the other ones are the same, 24%. That's really interesting. All right, thanks for playing along. Now we're going to shift gears and jump into coaching, and I'm going to quickly talk about how we define coaching and bring clarity to our coaching focus. One of the links that John shared, I'm just going to remind you, is our AZPLS website. The Getting Started Guides, our coaching guide, has everything in it of how we defined coaching. And we really did it into two parts. Amanda March shared our mission and vision with coaching. And as a leader, we really want them to focus on how they define coaching to be supportive of teachers' professional learning. How do coaches support teachers with clarity and focus for what coaching really can provide to them? Leaders should be aligning it to district goals so that it's clear what coaches are supporting, and be very transparent about how coaches support implementation and reflection for teachers. Amanda asked a question with this when she shared it. I wasn't able to be at that meeting. We had a family thing come up, but when I read through it, I was like, oh, yes, let's ask that question. What values do you see embedded implicitly in this work to take and carry forward? So she was going to have participants look at this mission and vision and pull out values that they saw. And I was curious of what people might pull out that I could learn from. You can share in the chat or come off mute.
I noticed that it's both systems coaching and teacher coaching.
Yes. I pulled out trusting relationships, implementing evidence-based practices, collaboration, and my favorite one was fostering reflective learning. Okay, so just a little history about how we developed our coaching framework. I started in 2016 and was just focused on what coaching was to bring it all to life. Jennifer was doing a coaching SIG group that year. I was part of that I loved that group, so great and reflective. And then I attended the Art of Coaching conference with Elena Angular, and Lauren Short presented on developing your mission and vision for your coaching framework. It just changed everything. I remember sitting in the airport, like writing it all down, like how I was going to make this happen. I follow all of Elena's work, so all of her books. I used the book Onward in our coaching community of practice, and it was a game changer. The human factor in her work and understanding the emotional side of things took the coaching to like a whole nother level. And then it was like serendipity. We defined our coaching framework, we developed our protocols, and then 2019 at our director meeting, CSEP NERN presented on intensifying coaching, and it just completed it. I went back to our guide, added a part 2, and like clearly defined how we were going to make an impact with coaching. And those are some tech tools that I just love to use, because every time I learn something, I make an infographic so people see it visually too, which I learned in one of our first SPDIG OSEP meetings. This anchored everything for leadership. One of the first questions we always got was, what am I walking away with at the end of all of this? So we clearly defined it in a one-page map with our 3 questions. You're implementing those systems and the modules. Where are we now? You're looking at all of the tools and resources that provide you for the adult actions and reflecting on your action plan. How will you close that gap? You are going to create an outstanding professional learning plan based on all of that data and information. You're going to connect with parents, build out your coaching focus for teams and individual teachers, and then how teachers write their own goals in the work. So a roadmap for leaders to lead and a roadmap for coaches to coach. And then we developed protocols, processes, data analysis, how leadership supports, and how we communicate to teachers. This 2-page document, I'm going to go kind of quick so we can get through this in 5 minutes. This 2-page document was a way to like bring that whole guide clear. Like, I didn't want to be like, here's a guide, here's our system. No. So we took a 2-page document, outlined the big picture of the work, how coaching is aligned to data and the action plan, and talked about through the team structure. These are the tools and resources for coaching. This is what the protocols look like, and this is how we define them for coaches. And then we worked with coaches on the flow of those protocols. So we're not just developing protocols to have protocols, they're with a purpose, and they help you do your work so that you're reflective in your coaching work. And then we added part 2 to our coaching guide. So this was the intensifying coaching work that we took from CSEP and NERN on really hitting hard on the leadership support that's needed. Illinois, I was thinking about you guys with time allocation, like all of this work would help you guys take your work to the next level too. How you develop and understand coaching needs based on teacher experiences and how you allot time to coaching. And then how do you analyze those needs? We took all of that work with our tools. Oh, I made another infographic about that. And then we took all of those tools and developed a reflection guide for coaches. So if you are clear on your focus of coaching in your coaching log, your strategy you used for coaching, and the time allocated, you can say, did I focus myself on the right things I said I was going to focus on based on my coach service delivery plan, which is developed from your school site action plan? So is there alignment? We said as a school, we were going to work on X, Y, and Z. Am I coaching on X, Y, and Z? What strategies am I using? How much time and focus am I giving to teachers? And then say, did my action items lead to sustainable change? Do I need to intensify coaching? And because you've collected all of that data, you can say, I need to switch my strategy. I spent too much time here. I need to change my focus, and realign your coaching plan or realign your action plan based on the data you've collected. Sustainability. Every year we have our schools present the state of their school, where they use those 3 questions and they state, these are our learning goals, our criteria for success, which is implementing this whole learning series. But more importantly, where are we at now with implementation? We have them do activities where they're digging into fidelity data, perception survey data. Those perception surveys on culture are my most favorite tool that we could have. And classroom observation data. They talk about aligning their initiatives. I mean, here they're realigning things to their mission, vision, and values. And then the coaches are very explicit on how they're going to close the gap and what supports teachers, parents, and students will have in implementing their plan that year. So reassuring teachers that their voice is so important along this entire way, how they're supported to grow their teams, what coaching support really looks like, feels like, sounds like, how we incorporate parents into all of it with our parent modules, and how we use data to keep moving forward. That is it, my friends. I hope you were able to walk away with a few good ideas today, or maybe you have further ideas that you could share with all of us along your journey and the work that you do. And welcome people to share in the chat or unmute. We have 1 minute. Look at me.
Yeah, there may be nice. Yeah, nice job, Tommy. There may be some questions too, which I think we could do at least one in a minute. And where is the coaching guide located on the AZPLS website?
And there's a section called Getting Started on the homepage. It's the first little tab. There's all the guides there.
You inspired people to create infographics.
I love creating infographics. My 11-year-old had to create a PowerPoint for his report. And I was like, ooh, I get to create a PowerPoint with you.
That's very sweet. Also, I wanted to point out, Amy Gummer Erickson said, thank you, Stacy. The components that you described are very comprehensive. I appreciate your focus on leadership and collective efficacy with coaching as a mechanism for growth.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of love for the tools. So thank you everyone for being on. Thank you, John Lind. It is so nice to have you back. Thank you for helping to organize us. Stacy, thank you for this sharing of everything you put together in the
Mhm.
last, I think it's like 10 years,
I
the
know.
amalgamation of everything.
It has.
Annette, I used amalgamation, to make something that can bring everyone along is just very deeply well thought out.
Thank you.
And also, Illinois team, thank you so much. That was great and fun to hear where you continue to go with your work. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and we
Thank
will see
you.
you next month, if not before.